Welcome back to the Resupply with me, Guy Next Door.
And me, DK.
Bringing you your weekly double tap of all things Space Marines and Laser Force. Well, I mean, we're a couple weeks out of our deep dive now, I guess.
Yeah,
we got nothing to talk about.
By the time you guys listen to this, we'll be pretty close to nationals, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's coming up in only a couple of weeks here.
Oh, man.
I'm definitely getting psyched, getting excited. Been watching some videos about all the roller coasters down at Cedar Point. So far, it doesn't seem like we have any Detroit people who have signed up to come on the trip with us. So if you live in Detroit, you got nothing going on the Thursday before Nats, hike on down to Cedar Point. You should come out with us. It's going to be fun.
Y'all should absolutely come down and hang out with us.
Yeah. It's not going to be fun if it's only non-Detroit people. Come on.
Yeah. So we're road tripping from... So I fly into Cleveland, meet more Orange in Cleveland, and then Beans, and I think Sanch are coming to pick us up. So we're gonna meet us. So we're gonna end up at Cedar Point like early-ish on the Thursday.
Nice, good deal. Yeah, my crew probably won't. My crew probably won't make it till close to the evening because we're all kind of staggered out in terms of when we're arriving in Detroit.
Right.
Which I was the first one to book in the morning, thinking that other people would follow suit, but some of my fellow players aren't getting in until about 12 hours after me, so I'll figure out a few things to do in Detroit that day. But I'm not too worried about it.
You should just totally ditch them and come down early. Peace out, assholes.
Or I could just get in some more lasers, whatever strikes my fancy.
That's right. That's what we're doing for that week.
Yeah. Laser tag. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to get your fix, right? You got to cram in a year's worth in like, I don't know, a week and a half.
Oh, I really do. I should do like I've seen Rusty do before some tournaments and just play like 80 standard games in the couple of days before the tournament so I can learn the field.
What are you going to do after Nationals? Have you thought about it? I mean, that's kind of it for like a whole year, right?
Why must you do this to me? Oh, that's all laser you can be playing for a year. I have road trips that are going on. I'm sure we're going to make it out to St. George at some point.
Oh, yeah.
With my schedule coming up this next year, I might have the money, in addition to saving for Auckland, to go to that tournament that we seem to have every winter, whether that's a random draw or an ECT or a WCT, whatever it is. So if they schedule it appropriately, I might be able to make it to that since I have a little bit more incentive now to go play some laser tag.
Right.
And actually before Nats, I'm going to be making a road trip up to Portland in early July, which might have already passed by the time people listen to this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to check out hopefully one of the other Laser Force sites up in the Portland area so I can get at least a little bit more laser tag in.
How far away is Portland from where you are? Like 4 hours?
Well, since we're gonna be driving, we're making the road trip for the first time since I lived there. It is roughly about a 9 to 10 hour drive, depending on how fast you go. Yeah, otherwise known as driving from one end of New Zealand to the other. I'm pretty sure.
No,
I mean both islands.
Yeah. Just get your facts
Just
right.
drive on the water.
Yeah. Well, right on. I hope it's not too painful. Like over that year where you have to miss out. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be easy, but I guess I'll keep busy. But hey, that spring break road trip out to St. George definitely did me good. So we'll figure out something in the next year and kind of tide me over until the next Nats. But in the meantime, I'm going to get in as much as possible. So on that note, I thought a good thing to talk about this week would probably be the schedule, since there have been a number of inquiries as to, wait, so how many games are we playing? What's going on?
Yeah. Has there been any sort of, I relatively useless when it comes to like paying attention, but has there been any like official release of a schedule yet?
It has not been released to the public, although it may be by the time everybody listens to this podcast, since we're coming to you from the past right now. But if it hasn't, I can sort of fill people in on the overall structure, because Beans, who is kind of the tournament schedule master at this point, along with Than, who's still giving a lot of input, even though he's not going to be at the tournament.
We've
kind of at least gotten down the broad strokes structure of what the tournament is going to look like. So we can at least share those kinds of details about when we're playing, what the structure of the tournament's going to look like, how many games people are going to get, so on and so forth.
Right on. Well, I assume you have a copy right in front of you.
I do have a copy right in front of me.
So how are we looking? Like, how in terms of like pool play or
Yeah, so we are going to do something a little bit different this year in that rather than just sort of being all in one grouping where we play a traditional round robin, that is to say that every team plays every other team. This year, we're actually going to be broken up into 2 different pools, with each pool having 5 teams in it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have an opportunity to play people who aren't in your pool, because there is going to be a crossover round, and you could well meet the other teams in finals. But it means that you will play more games against the teams that are going to be in your pool than the ones that aren't. So you can think of it kind of like divisions or something like that in other sports, where you play the teams in your division more often than you play the teams out of your division.
Right. Do you know what the actual draw is? Like, has Beans put together who's in which pool as of yet?
No. So the actual draw itself, I think we're not going to do until the day before the tournament at the captain's meeting. So that way there can't be any kind of implications that, well, the tournament was sort of scheduled around or for to advantage certain kinds of teams. So there is going to be a largely random element to it. So there will be an actual physical draw of the teams. Okay. The only caveat that we've put on that is kind of collectively as captains in our super secret Illuminati discussions we've been having outside of the public here is, well, do we want to try to create a situation so we don't end up with a weird kind of situation where the best 5 teams are in one pool and the worst 5 teams are in the other. So basically what we agreed on was to take the presumptive kind of best 2 teams and presumptive lowest ranked teams and just break them up across the different brackets. And then kind of those middle 6 teams just kind of fall where they are. Because although I'm sure we'll have a discussion about this before the tournament starts, I really don't have the greatest feel for where those kind of middle 6 teams are actually going to fall. If I had to rank them from top to bottom, I think that's going to be much more subjective. But the presumed 2 strongest teams, and I don't think we'll really get too much pushback on this, are going to be Detroit A and Brisbane.
Yeah.
I think everybody expects them to be competing in the grand final, or at least to be the favorites going in. So they are going to be in 2 separate pools, and we'll just kind of determine that probably by a flip of a coin.
Right.
And then the presumed kind of lower ranked teams, just based on experience and track record and things like that, are probably going to end up being Sacramento B and Loveland B.
Right.
Just by virtue of being B teams, by the fact that Sacramento really hasn't practiced very much and that Loveland has newer players.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a knock on you guys or anything like that. Like, oh, well, you guys are the lowest ranked teams. But just based on experience, I think it'd be probably more advantageous to keep those teams split up so that way the pools are relatively balanced in between them.
Right. I would like to see those 2 teams play each other at some point during the week, obviously, but
which they will.
Right, that's pretty cool then. And you never know, like the expectations. So the expectations last year was that the Brisbane D team were going to get their asses kicked. The Eaters were going to get their asses smashed all week, and that really wasn't the case. They took games off like most of the other teams, I think, including Brisbane A. I think they took a game from Brisbane A, or came close to.
Something like that. I know they definitely at least made it close. I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not they won, but they were definitely much more competitive than people anticipated at the start of the week.
Which is awesome. Like, if you're in
I love when that stuff happens.
Absolutely. If you're in the position where, again, it's not a knock. Like, people don't look at your team and go, shit. It's more of, like you say, it's more experience. But if you can get put in that position where expectations are relatively low, and come out and start smashing other teams, like that should be considered a win. You know, that's
when you got nowhere to go but up, then hey, perfect. Everybody is gonna be underestimating you.
Yeah, and if you know better, like, you know, just because people don't know the players on that team puts, you know, and I'm talking probably more the Loveland B team. The I'd imagine a good percentage of the players don't really know much about the B team players. So yeah, they could come out of nowhere and start surprising people.
You just kind of have to give the presumption that being your first tournament, expectations are going to be a little bit lower.
Yeah, that's
which,
right.
Again, is fine. So it gives you the opportunity to shatter those expectations.
Yeah, I mean the Loveland A team have kind of been doing that in the last couple of tournaments, right? That they've played in, or certainly in Sacramento.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see like what they're going to do, because it's like historically, you would probably maybe rank Sacramento A ahead of them, but the thing with Sacramento A is we really have not played very much lately. So I think at least some of the people I was talking to were suggesting like, oh yeah, you guys, can probably come like third. I'm like, oh, that might be a little presumptuous given that we haven't practiced. I know St. George is practicing a lot. Loveland A has practiced a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't want to forget about teams like Detroit B who know the field, or even though they're a B team, I think they're still going to be quite strong. So I certainly am not going to presume anything going into this tournament.
Who's on your team?
So SAC A is going to be me, Odin's Fist, Nimitz, Disco, Dude Broman, and Maniac.
Oh, of course. I couldn't remember if Venom was going or not. Clearly not.
No, unfortunately not. He would have had time to go with his new kind of schedule, working with the EMTs and paramedics. But unfortunately, he went and injured himself while he was still on probationary period, so that got extended, so he wasn't able to get time off. Good job, Venom.
Genius. Oh, that's a shame. I'm gonna miss him.
We'll try our best to make do without him, but definitely that's going to be a good player that we'll miss this time around. Would have liked to see Venom, would have liked to see Cordash and some other players like that, but I think this will be a good opportunity for some of the up-and-coming players like Disco and Nimitz to maybe shine.
Yeah, especially if they're in a position where they're not like necessarily trying to carry a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they have really good support. Like that's an amazing resupply, and obviously you're there, like with your many years of experience. But
so sort of humble brags. Is that like a humble knock? That, you're old, DK.
It's one of those like what is it? Compliment sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we can get in more to that, I think, when we do our sort of rundown of the different teams, where I give my super hot take of the rankings going into the tournament, so I can get everybody all mad at me before we even start.
That's right. DK's hot snakes. Be tuned in for that.
I don't want to record that one live.
Just have another coffee and like it'll happen. All right, so like I'm really keen to see how the pool play works out, because it could be a good template for larger tournaments going forward. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of debate about how we can make our scene a lot bigger. This might be an effective way of doing that, because part of the round robin part of the round robin format was you're playing and you have to be at the center for 12 hours plus, and in Sacramento that was brutal.
Yeah, and there is still going to be a bit of that this year, just because it's not as though one pool is going to play for like 6 hours and then they're done, and then the next pool is going to play for 6 hours and then they're done. They are going to be actively intermixing in between. So I'll just give you kind of the outline for what's happening. Right. So the day is set to start at 8:30 a.m., so pretty early. And we probably will be playing most days until at least Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. We'll be playing until about 11 to 11:30 at night. So they are going to be really long days, but there are going to be quite a few breaks that are scattered in there for teams to go take a little rest, get some food, all of those kinds of things. The day that we're going to be ending a little bit early is Wednesday, because I believe they have a private group coming in the evening. But that means that midweek, when we're all getting a little bit flustered, we're going to be able to end a little bit earlier. Maybe we can have everybody go out to dinner or something like that to sort of recharge our batteries.
Yeah, that'll be wicked.
Yeah. So like we have in previous years, things are kind of broken up into blocks and things like that, where you're going to have your familiar blocks where you do play, ref, sit for a three match block and that kind of thing. So for instance, if we look at the two pools, in the first pool, we just have the teams that are A through E, so A, B, C, D, and E, since they have not been labeled yet, since we haven't done the draw. And then in pool B, we have V, W, X, Y, and Z. So for instance, you're going to have in the very first block, like teams A and B will play each other, then V and W will play each other, then C and D will play each other. So people are going to be playing within their pool in the first round, but we are going to be mixing the pools in between because that's the only way that we can do play, ref, sit effectively, since you have 5 in each pool.
Yeah.
So that's how it's going to go. So each block is going to last for roughly about 2 to 2.5 hours. When it came down to it, because we expect there to be somewhat fewer eliminations, or maybe even if there are eliminations, it'll probably come later in the games. I think Beans made the very smart move of scheduling out 50 minutes for each match rather than kind of 40, which is what we've been doing in previous years. So my hope is that actually the blocks will move a little bit faster than we anticipate on the schedule itself. Yeah. But that means that people need to still be back and ready to play at their scheduled time, if not before, so we can keep things moving.
Right.
As is always the case.
Hopefully, we take a little bit of, what happened last year at Brisbane with, people in and out of the armory, really quickly before and after games. People know which packs they can use, blah, blah, blah. That stuff would be, really great. That stuff would be like perfect for keeping things moving quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's going to be kind of just incumbent on, I'm sure Beans will contribute to this. I'll definitely do my part to try to keep things moving wherever possible. And then some of the other organizers like Jesse, I'm sure will be trying to keep teams moving in and out of the games relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And since we are doing the usual play, ref, sit format, my hope is that will keep things moving in a reasonable pace. So that way resolution can happen after everything else has passed. Yeah. And depending what happens, we had still had to spend some time talking about this in captain's committee. We're hoping that maybe penalty resolution could be a little bit easier this time around if there is a small changes made. But I don't mean to be cryptic about that, but I'll give you more information when that's actually available.
Yeah, that's a discussion that's happening underway at the moment. But yeah, hopefully at the time this gets released, it's finalized, but I don't think it will be.
Yeah, I don't know about finalized, but we might at least have a kind of better idea as to what's happening.
Yeah, that'll be a captain's meeting. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. So essentially, you're going to have 6 teams playing in each block. Each block's going to last between 2 and 2.5 hours, which means that there are going to be 4 teams that are on bye. So that means that, you'll have probably at least 2 hours to go and do something else if you need to. And that may mean if you're not playing the first block of the day, you can grab a little bit of extra sleep or kind of take your time, get breakfast, get your coffee, whatever else. And we have tried to sort of time it out so that teams are going to have an appropriate sort of schedule. So not everybody has the same kind of burden every day. Yeah. For Team A, for instance, is playing in the first block on both Monday and Tuesday, but then on Wednesday, they're not playing in the first block. So that'll be kind of their day where they can start a little bit later and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. So in the first round, you're going to be playing everybody who's in your pool. So you'll have 4 matches in the first round, which will last a little bit beyond the first day. We're finishing up the first round in the very first block on Tuesday. So most of day 1 will be you're playing entirely within your own pool. Tuesday, switching over to round 2, is the cross pool play, where then you're going to actually play the 5 teams that are in the other division. So round 2 is actually going to be a little bit longer than round 1 since you're playing 5 other teams instead of 4 other teams.
Right. So you do end up playing all of the other teams.
Correct. Yeah. You play every other team in the tournament. You just play the ones that are in your pool or your division twice as much as you play the ones that are out of your division.
Right. So you do interpool, out of pool, interpool?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So round two is the cross pool play. So we wanted to do that in the middle of the tournament rather than at the end. So that way people can make adjustments before they go back into their pools, into their divisions when the seating will get tight and that kind of thing. So by about Wednesday afternoon, so round two will take a better part of about a day and a half to get through since it's a little bit longer. And then you go back into pool play for the second half of Wednesday, and then Thursday you're playing within your pool again to determine the kind of final seeding for the tournament. So you're trying to get as many points as possible within your pool and on the overall ladder.
Right.
So once that's done, you have the kind of rankings within the pools. Then what is going to happen? We're pretty sure we're still finalizing this on exactly how we're going to split the top seeds. If it's going to be based on overall points, or if it's just going to be we're going to seed the different ranks within the pools.
Right.
Which may end up being an arbitrary distinction anyway, because I think it'll probably shake out pretty close to the best teams will just be kind of seeded highest overall anyway.
Yeah.
But the top 8 teams are going to make finals. Right. So the bottom 2 teams are going to get dropped out and won't have the opportunity to play in finals. That was a tough decision that we had to make, but ultimately with the time that we have for the tournament, it just was not feasible to give everybody a crack at it. So that is why we are playing longer for the round play, that you are going to have essentially 3 rounds of play, which means every single team and most people, if you're not playing in a 7-person team or something like that, are going to be guaranteed minimum of 26 games, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
On the scale of things. And then obviously if you are in those top 8 teams, well, then you can get, at least 4 more games and more depending on how far you go.
Right.
So the top 8 teams are, go ahead.
I mean, that makes sense, like, from just looking at sports in general. You go, generally in sports, you go to a tournament to compete, and then the best teams get to go through to the finals. That's kind of how that works. So if you wanna play finals, you kind of have to earn it, right?
You gotta perform in the rounds.
That's right. And it is a shame that we've got to cut some games out for some people, but this is a tournament, and like I think that's an extra step towards making the scene, making the international scene grow. Is the understanding that you're not going to be able to play the entire tournament at if you're not good enough to compete. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and we could end up in situations where going into that third round, people are going back into their pools. It's largely already kind of determined who those top 8 teams are going to be, but it may be very much up in the air because with that cross pool play, that could really throw everything off. So I think there will still be adjustments to be made in that third round. So I'm hoping that there will be some exciting matches and adjustments that will take place in that last day and a half of round play there.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully we don't end up in a situation where teams decide they don't want to ref the remainder of the tournament. It would be a shame.
That would not be great.
Yeah, it would be a shame. Hopefully people are okay enough within themselves to kind of, be there when the scene kind of needs them. But, that's a discussion.
I mean, take it from me. I know it sucks sticking around and reffing after your team has been knocked out, especially if you get knocked out before you were kind of anticipating. You're feeling kind of low, but be a good sport to help everybody else out. Because in our particular sport, right, we don't have professional refs. We don't have people who are coming in from the outside. We're relied upon to police ourselves. Yeah. So, be a team player as much as possible when it comes to your duties for the tournament.
Side note, we've got a guy here who's actually a professional referee. And he was like, "Oh man, I'd love to just come and ref a tournament." And I was like, "Bruh, buy a plane ticket, like."
Yeah. We can definitely accommodate you there.
Yeah. You want to be head ref? We'll make you head ref.
Yeah, we did have for the, I think it was the 4th West Coast tournament, the second one that we hosted at SAC. Stalker initially thought that he was going to be able to play the tournament, but then it turned out that his work schedule wouldn't accommodate it. But then things kind of flipped again, and he was going to be around for most of the hour. So he agreed just to be the kind of ongoing ref/organizer for getting people in and out of the tournament.
Oh, good man.
And that was such a huge help, just to have somebody who was involved in the tournament but not playing on a team, able to take on some of those duties that wasn't a player being able to do his thing. So I definitely had my hats off to him, and the players, I think, very wisely ended up voting him to have the sportsmanship award for that tournament because he didn't play but still did a lot of work for it.
Yeah. Is Jesse kind of taking that role, or is he actually playing this year?
I'm pretty sure he's playing on Detroit B.
Cool. Awesome.
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that he is playing in the tournament.
Cool.
So we have our top 8 teams. So the top 4, I should say, from each pool. So it is going to be the bottom team in each pool that gets dropped out, whether or not it's the same on overall seeding. I really doubt there'll be a discrepancy between those, but hey, there could be something weird that happens.
Hopefully.
So the top 4, the top 4 teams from each pool will advance, and then what we're going to do is kind of cross the seeds. So the top ranked seed from Pool A will play the bottom ranked team in Pool B, if that makes sense, right? Kind of, if you watch soccer, like World Cup, that kind of thing, it's the similar format to what they do, right? Where you're going to play teams that are out of your pool, but you still take into account the higher seeds ranking.
Right.
So that means that the top ranked seed in one pool will play the bottom ranked team from the other pool, and then the 2 in the middle will just kind of cross brackets in their side. So second ranked seed in Pool A will play third ranked seed in Pool B, so on and so forth. And then that will just set up the 8-team double elimination bracket, which will be the last kind of part of Thursday. We're going to play 4 matches of finals on Thursday. So that will kind of determine the initial winners bracket and losers bracket going into Friday. But that means that everybody who makes finals is going to have an opportunity to play at least one match on Friday.
Right.
And then Friday, we're starting at 9 a.m. rather than 8:30. So yay, extra half hour of sleep.
We're going to have 2 coffees instead of 1.
Yeah, exactly. And we do need to be done by the afternoon. But once again, I think we'll have plenty of time bracketed off because absolute maximum, we'll have 15 total matches for finals. And that's getting 4 of them done on Thursday.
Right.
So at most, we have 11 matches to get through on Friday. Maybe only 10 because we'll only have that very last match if the team that was top ranked seed going into the grand final, if they have a loss, you have to play one more match because you have to lose twice to get knocked out.
Yeah.
Which has happened in the past. It happened in Chula Vista in 2010 and it happened in Sacramento in 2017.
I remember that too. Those 2 matches were epic. Yeah, they were so good. With the obvious split where Yama racks his knee, that was a little average, but
yeah, that part was not so great.
No, but the quality of the games, so good to watch. And that's another kind of benefit to being a ref is that you get to watch these amazing games happen. Obviously it's not as good as playing, but
yeah, not as good as playing. Yeah. And normally those grand final matches are great to watch.
Yeah.
A little bit less so in Brisbane last year, where the Great Wall of Taipan led to some shenanigans in the very final game. But hey, it gave me an opportunity to do some dancing for the camera and squat down so Beast could take a rest and sit on my back.
So assuming we are on schedule and we finish up on Friday afternoon.
Afternoon/early evening. We'll probably be done sometime between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. depending on exactly how long everything takes.
What happens then after that?
I believe we are scheduled to have the awards dinner is going to be at Dave & Buster's this year. So we really have an opportunity to have if you have not experienced the magic that is Dave & Buster's, it is basically let's see, how do I put this? It's like an arcade for adults, essentially. So, it has food and alcohol and all kinds of crazy arcade games.
Fuck yeah.
So, yeah, I think it will definitely be an epic time. We went in 2013, and there were many shenanigans that happened. It was not the origin of Fireball DK, but there was definitely some alcohol consumed DK that set up the shenanigans of subsequent years going on down the line.
Brisbane.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. I'm so glad that we're doing that. I mean, it would have been nice to kind of gather at Lasers for awards and whatever.
Oh, you want to you don't want to be the center anymore.
No,
After you've played all
no,
those matches, you
no.
want to go someplace else.
Absolutely, and like I'm all over being at an arcade. That sounds dope. I
I
don't know if you
mean,
know
it's
this
not
about me.
quite as cool as going to a park in Detroit after dark, but it's a close second.
We get like junkies join our barbecue. um,
You know what goes great on hamburgers? Crack.
yeah, get that black tar in you. So actually, on that one quick question on that. What is the weather conditions like in Detroit at that time of year? This time of year?
Unpredictable, I think, is
Oh,
the
really?
word that we would best apply. There's a slogan in Michigan that if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes. I remember a couple of days when I was there in 2009 and 2013
Yeah.
that it could go from being a perfectly pleasant sunny day to having a thunderstorm in the span of 30 minutes or something like that. And then after
Stupid
a
lakes.
very sudden downstorm, it'll go back to being sunny. But in general, I would say weather tends to be warm, a little bit more on the humid side overall. So if you're used to kind of dry weather, that's going to be an adjustment for us California people and for the St. George crowd.
Auckland will be sweet.
But, yeah, so that stuff will be climate controlled in the arena by and large.
What's the temperature
yeah,
like?
Let me see if I can. I can't adjust this to Celsius for.
Wait,
for all you,
give me a
all you
Fahrenheit.
international
Give me
listeners. I think it tends to be in like the high 70s to the 80s, depending on what happens.
that's
So
pretty mild.
the overall temperature is not terrible, but with the humidity, sometimes it can feel a bit warmer.
Yeah.
And it has been known to spike. Temperatures have definitely been up in the Midwest this year so far. So thanks a lot, climate change. We don't know
Thanks,
what to
Obama.
expect.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's like late teens, early 20s, which is good because that's kind of that's Auckland summer temperature. So it won't be like being in Sacramento in like 45 degree.
No, it's not going to be blistering hot weather, but it could be on the warmer side with a fair degree of humidity. So I would just say come prepared for whatever gets thrown at you. But I think most people will feel comfortable in their usual summer attire of shorts and short sleeve shirts.
Yeah, or I mean that's Beans' attire in general.
Yeah, exactly. It could be the middle of January in a snowstorm, and he would still be wearing. I mean, maybe he'd put on his hockey jersey to keep a little bit warmer. But
all right, cool. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good rundown of how the week's gonna go. I think it gives us a little bit of clarity because it's kind of been an ongoing discussion for a little while now. So we're getting close.
And the major concern going in was, is everybody going to get enough games and is there going to be enough downtime, which sometimes are kind of mutually exclusive things because, right, the more games that you have, the longer you have to be at the center. The fewer games you have more down. So trying to balance everything out, I think this is a pretty good compromise. It's still going to be pretty long days.
Yeah.
But we do have a little bit of wiggle room that's worked in there with the longer match times, and we're going to end a little bit earlier on Wednesday. So hopefully everybody will have a chance to recharge their batteries, get together, do some social kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. So I'm really looking forward to this experiment to see how things go. And I think it'll produce some interesting situations.
Yeah. I mean, if we can if the tournament runs really well, then obviously I think it'll get adopted going forward. And
assuming that we continue to have 10 plus teams, yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense to do it in a 8 or 6 team nationals, which happens. I'm expecting people to come to Auckland next year. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, you bum Yanks.
Yeah,
show up this time.
Make sure you start saving. But yeah, if it is, it goes a long way to helping the larger. The expansion of the scene. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely gives us more options than a pure round robin format would go.
Yeah.
Because the problem with running a pure round robin is that every team you add makes every round kind of like logarithmically longer.
Yeah.
So it's not just adding like, oh, it's just a couple more matches. Well, it's as many more matches as there are other teams.
That's right. Yeah.
So going, from 8 teams to 9 teams is an astronomical number of games you need to add.
Yeah, exactly right. Cool. All right. Well, that'll probably do it for us this week.
Yep, and hopefully everybody's able to follow that. If not, just show up for the tournament, and we'll tell you when you need to play.
Yeah, just ask your captain unless your captain is me, and then go bother someone else. Go ask DK.
And then your captain will say, "Hey, go ask DK."
Yeah.
And then I'll say, "I don't know, ask Beans."
I'll say, go ask Than.
Oh, too bad.
He's not here. All right.
Yep, everybody message Than at least 5 times a day.
Oh, absolutely. Like, give his rockstar ass some shit, man. Yeah, it wouldn't be it's not a tournament without giving Than some shit.
You are 100% correct there, buddy.
All right, well, for this week, I've been Guy Next Door.
And I've been DK.
Always remember to backtrack, kids. We will see you next week.